Philippines. Forecasters say that Typhoon Hagupit is heading toward the Philippines while pushing winds of more than 120 miles per hour. And by Saturday, Hagupit is expected to hit areas still recovering from last year's deadly storm. On Thursday, residents had already fled their homes and evacuated to safer areas. And supermarkets and gas stations were packed as locals stocked up on food and basic goods. In the capital, Manila, the country's president led an emergency meeting of disaster response agencies and put the military on high alert. Evacuation centers have been opened in at-risk areas, and aid workers have organized deliveries of food and basic goods to remote villages. One Twitter user said, "Oh no, not again." Hagupit is forecast to be at super typhoon strength as it approaches the Philippines on Sunday. We hope the storm will not be as deadly as last year.
Here it is, Super Typhoon Hagupit. You'll notice the movement on the cloud structure to the west and to the northwest. Here's what's going on, the steering currents associated with Hagupit. High pressure off to the east. On the western side of the high pressure system, winds comes in out of the west-southwest. Now, that would tell you that the typhoon would be making a west-northwest movement over the next couple of days, but that's not going to happen, and here's why. We're going to see another area of high pressure across Vietnam, so it's in between two high pressure systems, and there's in a sense going to be a handoff between these two upper level highs. So once Hagupit gets far enough away from the high pressure system to the east, it starts getting influenced by more of this high pressure across Vietnam. So what ends up happening is, because the winds around high pressure are clockwise, once the typhoon gets close enough to the upper level high across Vietnam, it starts getting influenced by northerly winds in the steering flow. So that's why we think the movement is not going to be west-northwest, but to the west. And in fact, this is what we're looking at as far as the eye path is concerned. To the west-northwest, this is going to be moving over south of Luzon. This is Luzon. This is the island of Samar, and this is Masbate, right in the middle here. So we think that the movement of Hagupit is going to continue to the west-northwest, or to the west. It'll be moving south of Luzon, right across Samar, and then across Masbate as we get into Sunday night local time. This kind of track will allow Hagupit to be a typhoon longer. It is going to continue to weaken, but I still think it's going to be a super typhoon as it makes landfall across central Samar as we get into the day Saturday local time. But if the movement was more toward the north and west, toward Manila, the higher terrain across Luzon would really shred the storm and really cause it to weaken faster. So this is actually a worst-case scenario as far as track, because this will allow the typhoon to be a typhoon its entire length as it pushes across the central part of the Philippines. Now, with this typhoon, you're going to get a lot of devastation and a lot of flooding. The worst of the storm is always on the northern side. So across Samar, since we think it's moving across the central part of Samar, that entire island is going to be impacted greatly. We're talking catastrophic damage, unfortunately, that is probably going to extend north up into the southwestern part of Luzon. Now, because of that, and that's mostly with the storm surge, but there's going to be some locally heavy rain. There's going to be heavy rain. I'll show you the rainfall here in a second. But you're still going to get extreme conditions and devastation, unfortunately, across the central part of the Philippines. Manila is probably going to be spared, but there's certainly going to be some locally heavy rain and strong winds. But the central part of the Philippines here, this is going to bring lots of devastation, and unfortunately, there's going to be a threat for a loss of life for those that do not evacuate in the areas that are going to be impacted the most. Here's the rainfall, flooding. Well, yeah, that's no doubter. 6 to 12 inches of rain along the path, most of that being across the central part of the Philippines.